Today I'm going to be looking at Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. This movie released in 2021, written and directed by Johannes Roberts and had a budget of only $25 million. This film is a reboot set in a new universe separate from the prior universe overseen by writer-director Paul W.S. Anderson. Despite the original 6-movie franchise receiving overall negative critical reception, the series was a financial success, grossing over $1.3 billion total at the box office. It has become the most successful video game film franchise of all time. Welcome to Raccoon City was supposed to be a more faithful adaptation of the games and return to horror elements. However, it is not a direct adaptation, instead a culmination of ideas from the first and second Resident Evil games, also borrowing some elements from newer games. Once the home of pharmaceutical giant Umbrella Corporation, Raccoon City is now a dying town. The movie begins with Chris and Claire Redfield in an orphanage run by Umbrella. While sleeping, a woman wearing a strange mask is spying on Claire. Claire wakes up and sees her in the corner of the room. The woman says, "Friend?" and Claire says, "Hello?" and asks her what she wants. The figure slips away and Claire tells her brother, "She's here again. She was watching me." But Chris doesn't seem to believe her and tells her to go back to sleep before Dr. Birkin finds you in my bed. Claire insists she's seen someone, but Chris says, "No, you didn't. You didn't see anything." He might know that what she's seeing is real, but he might be trying to keep her from getting into more trouble. When Chris falls back asleep, Claire sneaks out to try and find the mysterious girl. Claire finds the girl hiding in a playhouse and asks her name. She gets no response, but the girl sticks her hands out, and they are bloody and bound in these wood-like handcuffs. But on her wrist is a band that says her name, Lisa Trevor. Claire asks her if she lives here, and again gets no response. So she asks, "Where do you live?" Lisa grabs a piece of paper and writes, "Below." Claire reads the paper, but then the girl is gone, and only a creepy doll is left inside. A moment later, Claire is pulled out of the playhouse by Dr. Birkin asking what she's doing out of bed. Chris quickly appears and says, "Oh, she sleepwalks sometimes since her parents died," and Dr. Birkin seems to believe it and sends them back to bed. The doctor is seen checking on the kids while they sleep and walks away. We see a sign on the orphanage wall that says Umbrella is a shelter from the storm. A moment later, we hear the noise of Lisa again and we see the doll is on the edge of the bed, along with Lisa watching Claire. Claire sits up and Lisa grabs her face and she wakes up in a truck. She's hitchhiking back to Raccoon City to see her brother she hasn't spoke to in years. We find out later that Umbrella was doing experiments on the children in the orphanage and they used it as a way to get test subjects. Dr. Birkin tries to take Claire into the secret part of the orphanage where they conduct experiments, but she manages to escape the orphanage and runs away from the town. Dr. Birkin was about to take Claire where Lisa was talking about, below. Using a special key, you can open an elevator that takes you below the orphanage, to the laboratory, and it leads to the Spencer mansion. Later on in the movie, Claire finds a book filled with documented experiments on children of the orphanage and she breaks down. The first page is pictures of the children and says Raccoon City Orphanage, Subject Harvesting Facility, and there's pages and pages of kids' names with deceased stamped next to them. They play a film reel and on it is the Ashford twins Alfred and Alexia. They recreated the film from the games as well. Chris and Claire face off against the twins in Code Veronica after they've become mutated by the T-virus. Claire even finds a file on Lisa Trevor that's pretty interesting. We can read Lisa's file and it says, "Classified, Umbrella Corporation Asset Log, 11-10-67. Subject injected with progenitor virus. Virus fusion positive, but delayed. Massive strength increase, stable, but dangerous. Proceed with caution." The progenitor is a family of RNA viruses. Progenitor is ancient and is suspected of being hundreds of millions, if not billions of years old. It occurs naturally in a rare exotic flower that grows in West Africa. Progenitor virus is distinct from all other viruses by being able to reverse lysis in cells and revive organisms that are dead for considerable lengths of time, whereas other retroviruses will target a particular cell of a particular animal's body. The progenitor is capable of infecting the cells of any organism, whether animal, fungal, plant, or bacterial. The progenitor is the base form for every virus within Resident Evil. The next thing on the file is 78. W. Birkin takes over bioresearch on L. Trevor subject. 88. So almost 10 years later. Birkin successfully isolates the G virus in the blood of L. Trevor subject after injection of NE-A type parasite. 95. Testing has become unproductive and extremely dangerous. Recommend termination of L. Trevor subject. 97. Termination unsuccessful. Location unknown. Do not approach. Contact Umbrella Security Service. Extremely dangerous. Signed, W. Birkin. So from this file we learn that Lisa Trevor is how Birkin was able to isolate the G virus, which is what he later injects himself with. And we learn that they actually tried to terminate Lisa Trevor, but the file says unsuccessful, so she must have escaped. But she's still there when Claire was a child and is still there all these years later. So she must be able to hide around the orphanage and for some reason chooses to stay. I wonder how she got this mask. So while Claire is riding with this trucker to get back to Racoon City, he accidentally hits a woman who walks onto the road. They stop to see if she's alright, but while they're not looking, the woman gets up and walks away, leaving them very confused. The truck driver says, "You can stay if you want, but I'm getting out of here." But not before his dog licked a bit of the infected blood from the person that he hit. They enter Racoon City with the famous welcome sign, and then we get some text on the screen. Racoon City, once the home of Umbrella Corporation, the world's largest pharmaceutical company, is now a ghost town. Umbrella is transitioning to a new location. All that remains is a skeleton crew of the last employees, and those too poor to leave. We are introduced to Leon Kennedy, who is living in a motel. He is referred to as a rookie by all the other cops, and apparently he accidentally shot his partner in the behind while training, and his dad is some kind of big shot on the force and used his pull to save his job, but he got transferred to this dying small town. While the police are sitting in the diner before night shift, one cop says that someone reported a body up at the old Spencer mansion, and it's all chewed up, and they're heading up there to check it out. Claire finally makes it over to her brother's house and waits there for him. He was a little surprised because he hasn't seen her in 5 years, and she was able to break into his house. Claire looks at a picture with Dr. Birkin with distaste, but Chris mentions that after Claire left, Dr. Birkin was good to him, and that William was the closest thing he had to a family. Obviously, he must not have tried to experiment on Chris. Turns out Claire came to see her brother because she has been talking with someone from Racoon City in an online chat room about the weird happenings in the town. But as of recently, he disappeared and she hasn't been able to contact him. His name is Ben, and this is what he says in the video Claire plays for Chris. "It's in the water, Claire. It's in the water. This whole town has been poisoned, slowly over years and years, and people are getting sick." We see when Leon is talking to the waitress at the coffee shop, she starts to bleed from her eye and says it's been happening a lot lately. Ben goes on to say, "See, Umbrella thought they could just pack up shop and let this town rot away while they go off and start fresh. Somewhere else all shiny and new, and they almost did it. But a couple days ago, they had a little incident. And I'm not just talking about waste poisoning the water. No, I'm talking about a real bad leak. Like Chernobyl, if you know what I mean. They've been trying to contain it, but the genie's out of the bottle, and I don't think it's going back in. I'm afraid, Claire. I'm afraid what they're gonna do to this town." So Claire's been talking conspiracies online with this guy, and now he's suddenly stopped responding, so she's looking for him. Chris doesn't believe anything that Ben said, and states he's probably crazy and dangerous. Chris seems confused and overwhelmed that Claire would show up after all this time with this crazy news, and he's understandably angry. He hasn't talked to her in 5 years, and she breaks into his house with a bunch of crazy conspiracy theories. Dr. Birkin gets a phone call that seems to surprise him, and when he answers, he looks terrified. Obviously, Claire's friend was right about some kind of leak, and Birkin tells his wife to get their daughter dressed and meet him in the car. A moment later, the doomsday sirens begin, and a voice saying, "Return to your homes."
This is the Umbrella Corporation. For your safety, please stay.
Chris has to leave Claire to get to the police station to see what's happening. And not long after he leaves, Claire is attacked by the first zombie. She writes "itchy tasty" on the glass, which is actually a reference to a journal you can find in the first Resident Evil game of a man describing his loss of sanity while the virus takes over. Claire hops on Chris's motorcycle and takes off. When Chris gets to the station, Chief Irons informs him that even he doesn't know what the sirens are for or what's going on. And on top of that, the two cops from the coffee shop earlier that went to investigate the Spencer mansion are not answering their radios. Leon, being new to the town, asks what the Spencer mansion is, and Chief Irons explains that the mansion belonged to Oswald Spencer, the creator of Umbrella Corporation, and the mansion was his home until the year of his death. He then tells the rest of the team to be dressed in 5 and ready to fly to the mansion because he wants to know where Bravo team is and why the alarms are going off. One of the police at the station is actually Wesker. During the meeting with the chief, Wesker receives a message on his pager to check his locker. And while suiting up, he's surprised to find a device in his locker, and when he picks it up, it says everything you need to know is on this device. Racoon City will be destroyed at 6 a.m., and it says sender unknown. We learn later that Wesker is working for someone, but even he doesn't know who they are, only that they're paying him to get the T and the G virus out of the laboratory under the Spencer mansion, because they want to expose the secrets that Umbrella's hiding. The team takes the helicopter and arrives close to the Spencer mansion and finds Bravo team's car flipped over but with no bodies. They do find a trail of blood leading off as well as a zombie crow. The team enters the mansion and decides to split up to find Bravo team so they can get out of there faster. Jill and Wesker go one way and Chris and Richard go the other. The mansion is definitely a little smaller than in the games, but I think the main room looks awesome, and when they go through the mansion in the dark, it might be my favorite part of the movie. Back in Racoon City, the truck driver that gave Claire a ride got bit by his dog who consumed some of the infected blood. He almost drives his truck right into the police station but rolls over just before. Chief Irons has to kill the driver when he comes in the front door because Leon isn't paying attention. Chief proceeds to pack up all his stuff and he points out to Leon that all the phone lines have been knocked out, but leaves Leon in charge while he tries to flee the town, but finds that all the ways to leave town have been blocked by armed guards and he's almost killed when some guys try to start an argument with them. He does some quick driving and retreats back to the police station. When he arrives, he is attacked by the truck driver's dog and is saved by Claire Redfield. The chief tries to contact the team that took the helicopter because all exits out of the town have been blocked, but gets no reply. Leon finds the man Claire was talking to online in one of the jail cells. Unfortunately, he gets killed by a zombie in the cell with him before Leon can get the door open, and Claire comes down just in time to see the person she had been looking for dead. Chief Irons, Claire, and Leon all decide to head to the mansion together to meet up with the team and possibly use the helicopter to leave Racoon since they can't do it by car. Chief tells them he knows a way they can get there safely. Back in the mansion, eventually Chris and Richard came upon a zombie in a lab coat, snacking on one of their missing Bravo team officers. They fire multiple bullets and it seems to have little effect until they shoot it in the head. Somehow the officer is still alive, for 2 seconds. Not long after this first encounter, they get swarmed by zombies in the mansion, as well as the helicopter pilot getting attacked. Wesker and Jill find a room with a piano, and Wesker pulls out the device from his locker and it has some piano keys on it like instructions. He begins to play Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven and it opens a secret door, just like in the original 1996 game. The song is also a theme for the 1996 game, and according to George Trevor's diary, Moonlight Sonata is the favorite piano song of Oswald Spencer, the founder of Umbrella. Also, one last side note on George Trevor, who was just mentioned. He is the person who designed the Spencer Mansion and all of its tricks. He is also the father to Lisa Trevor, the girl experimented on by Umbrella. The date that her experiments started also just so happens to be the year of George's death. So back to Wesker. Right after he opens the secret door by playing the piano, the helicopter crashes into the mansion right where Wesker and Jill were. The pilot must have survived the attack but tried to fly the helicopter to safety and the infection took over, causing him to crash. Wesker and Jill survived the helicopter crash, and after brushing themselves off, Wesker looks into the secret door and sees how far it goes. Jill asks him what's going on, and Wesker tells us some people contacted him several months ago, after Umbrella started moving their operations out of Racoon. He says they're just some people with a vested interest in exposing the secrets Umbrella has down there. It was just money. A way to get out of this small town dead-end life. So he was one of the people too poor to leave. Jill says we have to find Chris and Richard and tell them that the helicopter pilot Vickers is dead and the helicopter is destroyed. But Wesker says he can't and takes off into the secret area of the mansion, abandoning his friends. Chief Irons, Claire, and Leon arrive at the orphanage. We see that same creepy doll again, and Claire has a flashback of when they tried to take her below where they do the experiments. Chief says there's a secret passage that leads from the orphanage to the Spencer mansion. A moment later, something starts approaching Leon, walking along the roof, making the lights swing. Leon sees Lisa Trevor while looking around, but she shushes him and points at the ceiling, but Leon doesn't realize what's going on. He yells to Claire and the chief, but when he looks back, Lisa's gone. Suddenly, Chief Irons is pulled up into the ceiling and dropped on the ground looking a little worse for wear. Turns out it's a liquor. They do their best to get away, but lucky for them, Lisa Trevor reappears to help them by killing the liquor. With her hand still bound, I might add. Again, she says friend, just like she did before when Claire remembers her from all those years ago at the orphanage. Claire says, "We need to get to the Spencer mansion, and you know how, don't you?" Lisa then leads them to the secret entrance and gives Claire the keys. These are also the same keys from the video game. The entrance leads to an elevator that brings them below the orphanage. They find the room I talked about in the beginning of the video with the files on the children, and then they head off toward the mansion. Wesker ends up running into Dr. Birkin, who came back to the lab to save his creations, the T-virus and the G-virus. Wesker tells him, "I've only come for that," and points to the vials, but Birkin says that's my life's work. I'm not giving it to anyone. He talks Wesker into lowering his weapon, but then tries quickly to pull a gun, which leads to both of them being shot. But Wesker's alright. The dying Birkin tells his wife to hand him the vials and he injects himself. The doctor's wife then tries to shoot Wesker as well, which leads to her being killed and his daughter runs and hides. Wesker tells the dying Birkin, "Why did you have to make it like this?" implying that Wesker really didn't want to kill anyone. Just as he tries to leave, Dr. Birkin's daughter reappears pointing a gun at Wesker, but right when it looks like he's going to shoot her, Jill finally shows up with Chris and shoots Wesker. Wesker then apologizes to Chris and Jill for planning to leave them and tells them about a train in the facility that will take them through the mountain to safely avoid the city being destroyed by the self-destruct at 6 o'clock. Wesker dies, and while Jill, Chris, and Dr. Birkin's daughter are trying to escape, the doctor is being reanimated by the virus he injected himself with and begins to hunt them down. He grows an extremely large arm with some eyeballs, as well as his voice becoming distorted. Before the doctor can finish Chris off, Claire and Leon finally show up and Claire kills the doctor with her shotgun and lets Chris finish him off. They run to the train and get it working and start their escape down the tunnel, but the self-destruct causes a shockwave that knocks the train off its rails. And the G-Virus brought Dr. Birkin back to life as a grotesque monster and he attacks the train, tearing the roof off like a soup can. Lucky for them, Leon found a rocket launcher and finally kills Dr. Birkin for good. The town is completely destroyed. Claire, Chris, Leon, Jill, and Dr. Birkin's daughter are the only survivors. We see on screen some stats that the outbreak was contained and the assets were destroyed. But it turns out Wesker's not dead. He was saved by Ada Wong. He wakes up confused and disoriented and says, "I thought I was dead. What happened to my eyes? I can't see." Ada tells him he was dead, and his eyes are a side effect of bringing him back, and there will be others. She hands him his signature sunglasses, and after putting them on, he's able to look around. Wesker must have been injected with the T or G virus in order to bring him back, and if we get another movie, then we will get to see Wesker become the Wesker that we know and love. Well, that's my video on Welcome to Racoon City. I know the movie was a little disappointing for a lot of people, but I went in with no expectations at all, because I know what happens with video game movies, unfortunately. But I was actually kind of surprised, and personally I enjoyed the movie. I appreciated what they tried to do, and some of the fan service was pretty cool. But please let me know what you thought of the movie. I'm really curious if I'm the only one that didn't hate it. Also, is there any kind of crazy Easter egg or lore that I missed out on? Let me know. If there are any other movies you'd like me to cover, leave some suggestions in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.